Today's dedication is for Zahn, who gave me a very generous 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon. Niv Mizzet Guildpact versus Mirko, Arahbo, and Ziatora. Now that is slow but tempting. We're against a couple of other green players that might ramp ahead of us. But we can hopefully go for Skyshroud Claim on turn 4, fix our colours, and not go in for our commander because of the Reliquary Tower. I'm going to risk a mulligan on that. Okay, we've got better colours there. Delighted Halfling is obviously some ramp for us. Means we can get down Joyra quite quickly, so we'll try this. Drawing 2 Rivaz, so yeah, unfortunately can't go for the Delighted Halfling just yet, otherwise we would have been able to go in for that on turn 2. But we're going to have to take a turn off getting down a tap land. Dimir Spybug for the Mirko player. Alright, and drawing to a Verdant Catacomb, we can get down an untapped land with the Verdant Catacombs, go for the Delighted Halfling here. A Talisman for Ziatora. Hungry Lynx is the first cat and has protection from rats, and the rat being given over to the Ziatora player. Mirko Obsessive Theorist, the first commander coming into play on turn 3. Okay, there's a Coiling Oracle. We could go for Rivaz here, and then hope that we keep both the Dorks in play ready for our commander. And I think that's going to be alright here, allows us to get into a tap land with the Verdant Catacombs. Riveteer's Ascendancy from Ziatora. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, you may return a target creature with lesser mana value from graveyard to battlefield. So, giving a player like this sack fodder might not be the best idea if they are looking to sacrifice things. Prismatic Lens for Arahbo allows for some filtering of mana. That takes me into more ramp in the form of Celestia's Signet. Then it's +3/+3 onto the Lynx. And that swings straight in at us, worried about the commander next turn. And a rat being handed to the Dimir player this time. A Surveil Land being played into the commander. So plus counter on a couple of creatures. We see a Swamp hit the bin. And then it's a Sinister Starfish, which can surveil every turn once the Summoning Sickness has been removed from that. And now the Flyer going in at the Arahbo player. Otherworldly Gaze is Surveil 3 and has a flashback of 2 mana. So leaving some cards on top, throwing away a Mind Stone curiously. And of course they do get more plus counters thanks to the Surveil. Alright, there's a Baleful Strix we've drawn into, so we've got 3, 6, 7 mana available to us this turn. So we can go for the Baleful Strix and yeah, maybe instead of Coiling Oracle, go for Baleful Strix. So let's get down the commander first. Able to make 2 mana for our commander off the Rivaz of course, and we do have other legendary dragons that we can play out. And so we'll play the Pillar of the Perunes so that we can go for the Baleful Strix. And that will be a Flying Death Toucher, it obviously cantrips as well. And that gets us into Ataka, which is one of those legendary dragons I was just referring to. So if we're lucky and we feel as though we can get some damage off with this, we may well be able to get some double strike damage going next turn with no maximum hand size. So yeah, that would be pretty good. That is a Daemogoth Woe Eater. At the beginning of your upkeep, sack a creature. When you sack Daemogoth Woe Eater, each opponent discards a card you draw and gain 2 life. So it's just a cheap 7/6 basically, and the rat token becoming more relevant. Malamet Brawler, protection from rats, as do all the cats now. Whenever it attacks, target attacking creature gains trample until the end of the turn. That is a 2/2. And then we see an Ironpaw Aspirant. When it enters the battlefield, a plus counter goes on another creature, and they put that on the other green creature that they just played. And once again, the buff goes on to the Hungry Lynx. So see if they want to swing into a 6/6 or a Death Toucher. Deciding to spread the damage now, go straight in at the Dimir player. And this time we get ourselves a Death Touch rat token. So he's maybe worried about getting Niv Mizzet Guildpact swinging in at him, as he probably should be. Notion Rain, Surveil 2 again, and draw 2 cards. It deals 2 damage to you. Then flashing back with the Otherworldly Gaze, so the Dimir Spybug will be a 5/5. The commander will be a 5/7. Haven't seen anything hit the bin yet, so maybe trying to look at 1 extra card with the Surveil. Simply doing it to buff their creatures maybe. Did manage to see another card. There is a Snow-Covered Swamp. Alright, so the 5/5 swings in to the left. And the 5/7 with Vigilance goes in down the middle. So I think the Flying Death Toucher is holding our opponents at bay against us here. Sinister Starfish going to Surveil now as well. They know what cards are on top, so just doing it for the plus counters, I imagine. So the commander can actually swing in towards us now, as long as it's just Niv Mizzet that wants to block. Keep hold of the Baleful Strix for as long as we can, I think. Okay, and there's a Boros Charm, so argument to be made for holding on to that and not going for the double strike straight away. We could go for Joyra, but then we won't be able to go Coiling Oracle, and we won't be able to hold up the Boros Charm either. So I think we're best just dealing a bunch of damage with Niv Mizzet and pointing it over here so that it doesn't get too out of hand. Yeah, I think we're best doing that, so let's get down the Ataka. Alright, so that comes into play. It was uncounterable anyway. We have an unlimited hand size now with the Reliquary Tower. So let's swing in down the middle, because the cat player was focused on us before. And we've got free reign to get through here. Going to gain double strike from the Ataka. So another hit like this with double strike and the cat player's out of the game. So there is hit number 1. Now it doesn't actually tell us what we're choosing for here. I'm assuming it's damage because it says creature, planeswalkers, players, battles. So we'll go after Mirko with the first trigger. And then it says choose a player. So that is X cards and then X life. So we'll choose ourselves for both of those. Alright, so we gain the life no matter what. We choose ourselves for the card draw, and we did choose correctly, dealing the damage here. Oh, but it's only 3 damage. I thought we had 4. Alright, I'm obviously miscalculating there. We miss out on destroying some stuff here. Let's just go after the Surveil Starfish then. And then we choose ourselves for the card draw, of course. Yeah, so should have got rid of this or something like that, but hopefully it doesn't really matter. Drew into some more lands. We were a few cards away from getting into lands, so that's good. One of which is the World Tree, which will fix our colours once we've got 6 or more lands. So we will pass at that. Now the Woe Eater has to sacrifice a creature. We'll assume that it's the rat token. And there we go, a plus counter goes on this thing. Probably should have had rid of this by now. And now Ziatora, the Incinerator, comes into play. Alright, and now sacrificing this in order to get the triggers with the Ziatora and the Woe Eater itself. Get a trigger from the Riveteer's Ascendancy as well. And that destroyed our Ataka World Render, so no more double strike for us. Ideally, of course, we would have been able to hold up the Boros Charm and give Indestructible. Have to discard a card here, we'll make it a tap land. Don't have double strike anymore, but we can always play the Xenagos next turn and knock the cat player out of the game if we want to. Noteworthy that a board wipe has been discarded here, that's interesting. Arahbo buffing up the Malamet Brawler this time. And the 7/7 goes in against Ziatora. So maybe it's worth keeping the cat player in the game. He's only got 2 cards in hand and he's dealing some big chunks of damage here, maybe forcing other players to use their removal. Might be worth keeping him around for our own benefit. Noteworthy a Doom Whisperer has been discarded here as well, probably one of the best cards in the deck. Although they won't want to put too much life into it. And there we see a citywide bust getting rid of our commander, so we would have lost our Ataka anyway. A bunch of dragons go down there, some big creatures over here. I'm not against this, to be honest. Like I said, we probably weren't going to go after the Arahbo player anyway. Another rat token being given to the Dimir player. Dimir Signet for the Dimir player. Noteworthy there is a Volrath Stronghold here as well. And managing to get down the commander again straight away. Okay, there's a Nature's Law, a means of us ramping a bit more, which I think would be a good idea because the mana's a little bit janky at the moment. So we'll go for that, get ourselves... I've got quite a bit of red in hand, so we'll get a Tiger. And then we'll play out a Xenagos now, so that's ready for our commander next turn. And then we can go for the World Tree here, because that is a tap land. Again, take advantage of those when we can. And we've got all of our colours fixed now. Xenagos, we're going to swing in with the Rivaz, seeing as how we're not tapping it for mana. It's noteworthy that with Rivaz in play as well, we can replay the Ataka if we want to, but we're a few turns away from that, I think. So let's deal 6 damage to the Jund player. Daemogoth Titan this time, an 11/10, and when it attacks or blocks, sack a creature. And then a Garruk's Uprising, that will cantrip thanks to the big creature, as well as give these big creatures trample. I think our opponent might have used a Dark Ritual to cast something here as well, just in case the maths isn't working out for you. A Ruthless Technomancer. When it enters the battlefield, you can sack another creature, create a number of treasure tokens equal to the power, so they make 11 treasures there by sacrificing that 4-mana creature. And then for 3, sack X artifacts, return a creature with power X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. But probably just doing it for the treasures here. Only 2 cards left in hand though. Noteworthy that Ziatora is in the bin as well, which I didn't notice. It's not in the command zone. So there is a Clackbridge Troll, and they'll be able to give 3 goat tokens to somebody. Cantrips as well with the Garruk's Uprising, and the tokens being given to the Dimir player. And then any opponent can sacrifice something to tap this. Should probably be a rat token over here, or a goat token. Alright, amazingly not sacrificing any of this to tap the Clackbridge Troll, so well, we won't either. See where it ends up swinging in. It is the cat player it decides to go in at, so an 8/8 trample. I think the Baleful Strix is really holding our opponent's back here. Abundance from the cat player will be able to filter the cards that he draws into. The white creature being buffed up this time to a 5/6, and that will swing in against the Technomancer. So this means the Jund player is at risk of getting knocked out here if we can land our commander and swing in over there. Mystic Remora from the Dimir player now. Then a Surveil on the Sinister Starfish again, and leaving whatever card it was on top this time. And then the 2/4 swings in at the Ziatora as well. And then with Mirko, returned a creature to the battlefield in Dimir Spybug with a finality counter on it. And let's see what we can do here. Can we get rid of the Jund player with 7 mana held up? We will try to get down our commander. The Dimir player holding up mana. So this is uncounterable. I think they'll be able to target it with a counterspell, but it won't do anything. Maybe he wants to bounce the Xenagos. I did think about getting down the Rhythm of the Wild first, but I do want to try and go for Lotho and hold up the Boros Signet, or the Boros Charm even. Anyway, it's a Dream Eater. When it enters the battlefield, surveil 4. Return a target non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand, so that is maybe the Xenagos. Not allowing us to get rid of this player, curiously. I assume that that's what's happening here anyway. Alright, so in the bin, we've seen the Doom Whisperer. There's a couple of lands in there, including an Urborg. And then, yeah, really weird move that. I know that we're gonna, like, draw cards and be able to deal damage, but have we seen the mana that's going on over here? I think you need to allow me to get rid of this player, to be honest. Anyway, plus counters on the creatures. Xenagos does go back into our hand. Then the Guildpact enters. We'll go Windswept Teeth. I can get in a tap land with that if we don't use it for any other mana. Slightly decreases the chance of us drawing into a tap land when we're desperate for more mana. Let's go for Lotho. And then, like I said, we are just holding up the Boros Charm at this point for Indestructible, hoping that's relevant. So we'll see how much damage Ziatora can deal now. That is a Thunderblust, a 7/2 with haste, and it does have Persist. Cantrips with the Garruk's Uprising. Be funny if my opponent got into a board wipe now. Clackbridge Troll, again going to trigger, see if our opponent gets a card draw. Nope, still not sacrificing anything over here. Trying to keep him off the card draw, I think. The 8/8 turning in towards us, not particularly interested in that, we'll just take the damage, I think. Could get rid of that with a Death Toucher before this thing leaves the battlefield, I suppose. Yeah, let's try and get rid of it with a rat token, because we're tangling against a lot of flyers anyway, there's not a whole lot on the ground. So we take hit for 7, a rat dies, putting another plus counter on this thing. So I suppose in hindsight it's a good job we never got rid of this way back when. Clackbridge Troll goes down, and there is a Swords to Plowshares going on to the Niv Mizzet Guildpact, and yeah, a lot of people run Boros Charm. This is pretty much half the reason that I don't run it often, is because Indestructible isn't necessarily all that great. You've got Toxic Deluge, Swords to Plowshares, Cyclonic Rift, plenty of means of Indestructible not being all that useful. So yeah, the cat player, obviously worried about commander damage here, but while all this is going on, we're not getting rid of the Jund player over here. No cards left in the Arahbo player's hand, and there is a Divine Reckoning, so, well, at least here, the Boros Charm is going to be relevant, and we do want to be keeping our dorks in play, so let's go for the Boros Charm. Draws another card with the Mystic Remora though, and then we'll choose a creature we control. It shouldn't matter because all our stuff is indestructible anyway. And everything gets blown up except the Technomancer. The Thunderblust is about to come in with Persist, cantripping again. The Hungry Lynx is left in play with a bunch of plus counters thanks to the rats dying, and the commander sticks around as well. And then handing a rat token over to this player again. So it seems as though we're the arch enemy, I think. Alright, now getting our board dealt with, a Toxic Deluge is going to wipe out everything. And I don't think a Jund player is going to do much about it. 4 life put into this, so everything's going to go down apart from this. And yeah, Mirko just about survives it. So Ruthless Technomancer is going to be activated, and that is being pointed at the Ziatora now. Enters and draws. So we got absolutely nothing out of the Lotho, unfortunately, and lose a decent amount of mana there. And then Feed the Swarm goes on to the Ziatora, so they're going to lose a decent chunk of life there. And then Nesting Grounds, removing a counter from the Mystic Remora, and they can move that onto any other permanent, any other land. So that will keep the Mystic Remora around perpetually, I imagine, as long as they want to put mana into the grounds. And then not swinging in with Mirko Vosk, was debuffed thanks to the Toxic Deluge. Let's see here, we've got 3, 6 and 9 mana. And we've got a Beladros Witherbloom, another legendary dragon. So get the land down. I think we want Xenagos in play again. Ready for our commander again next turn. Let's just double check how much it costs. Yeah, we can just about afford it, so we'll set up for the next few turns, I think. Maybe get down the Joyra and then cast the Xenagos. So Xenagos being played into Joyra will draw us a card because it is historic, being legendary. Alright, and there's a mana crypt, so pays for some more tax. Yeah, so if we get into a land next turn, we might be able to go Rhythm of the Wild into our commander, which could make all the difference against this blue player. Still 3 cards in hand. So we'll give haste and +3/+3 to the Joyra. We'll knock him down by half, show our opponents where we're swinging. Okay, an Infernal Grasp, so the removal is plentiful in this game, drawing another card with Mystic Remora. Nylea Keen-Eyed, and does not have the Devotion to Green for that to be animated, so gets 1 away from that in Elves of Deep Shadow. 1 card left and 9 life available. Arahbo being played for the first time, so the +1 buff being put on the Hungry Lynx, and I dare say this will come in towards us. Yep, don't think the Jund player's been given a lot of respect here. And then the Rat Token being handed to Ziatora again, for whatever reason. Want to keep this player in the game for as long as we can, apparently. Mystic Remora being paid for again, because it only costs 1, of course. And it's even more annoyances from the Agent of Treachery. So we're very much eager for that land drop now, so that we can play Rhythm of the Wild next turn. Because we're about to get our Xenagos stolen here. Xenagos, yeah, looking at the board, I imagine it is Xenagos. They just want to take the haste away from us. And then it is Tear Asunder, exile an artifact or enchantment, so these lot would have been able to do that anyway. That, yeah, is targeted at the Xenagos as well, so very much not wanting us to be doing anything here. And Mirko goes in at the Ziatora. Alright, see what we draw into here. There is the land we were eager for. So let me just double check the maths here. We've got 3, 6, 9 and 12 mana. And this does cost 9, doesn't it? Yes, it does, so we'll play the Bayou, draw our opponent a card with the Mana Crypt. So then it has to be Rhythm of the Wild first to make our creatures uncounterable, as well as giving them haste when they enter. And it's drawing another card for the Mystic Remora. So we'll try yet again with the commander, and it will have haste here. And then we'll go through to the attack phase, and we are going to, hopefully, finally get rid of the Ziatora. Few turns too late in my opinion. So finally getting rid of that player, and the Guildpact will just point that at our opponent. It's only going to be 1 damage, and then obviously we'll gain a bit of life and draw a card as well. And that gets us into Pippin, Guard of the Citadel, so we'll be able to give protection from creatures if we want to, and definitely be able to get through with our commander. Hopefully that will still have haste by our next turn. I imagine this player's going to keep swinging in at us. He's not really paying much respect to the player that's drawing a bunch of cards over here. A Lone Lion is going to be a 2/3 upon entry because our opponent does control a forest. And then the Hungry Lynx still in play after all this time. One of the first spells he cast, I think, and 11/11, I dare say, comes in at us. Argument to be made for either of us, but need to start paying respect to the Dimir player who's drawing a lot of cards at the moment. So yeah, it does come in at us as I thought he would. And can pay into the Arahbo as well, gets +X/+X until the end of the turn where X is its power. So that's actually going to be 22 damage, and our opponent may well be able to get rid of us next turn. And then at the end of the turn our opponent decides to give us a rat token, which, assuming this doesn't get buffed up too much, could save us. Didn't remove the counter with this previously, so it does cost 2 now. So deciding to let go of the Mystic Remora. Phyrexian Metamorph comes down as a copy of anything on the battlefield, so probably the Agent of Treachery again. Note comes down as a copy of our commander instead, so not wanting us to be able to swing in that direction, I imagine. Talisman of Dominance after that, 4 cards left in hand. Then Feign the Broker will have Summoning Sickness, but sack a creature for plus counters, remove a counter from a creature for a treasure, sack an artifact for an Inkling, and you can untap it for 4 mana. Mirko is coming in at us, as you would expect, for 3 damage, and then we do have the Mana Crypt to contend with now as well. Okay, so I don't think we're doing anything this game now. We've been controlled too well by all our opponents. So maybe we have to try and rely on Merciless Eviction this next turn. See if we can dodge a bolt. We do win the Mana Crypt flip. Alright, and there is a D-Spark, so we can use that over here in order to get it out of the way. But I think we still need to use Merciless Eviction to keep ourselves in it, so do we just hit the cat player for the sake of getting a trigger? I'll go for the Coiling Oracle so that we can draw another card. It'll help us in our decision making, but also we'll be able to draw more cards off the Niv Mizzet that way. And that can just enter with a plus counter just in case it's relevant as a blocker. I don't think anything can save us in blocks at this point. And the top card of our library, alright, that is some life gain. Unflinching Courage, does that change anything? Yeah, it might do actually. So we've got 4, 6, 8, 10 mana. So in that case we could go for Beledros and the Unflinching Courage. Let's go for Unflinching Courage either way. And this obviously adds to the count with the Guildpact as well. And this obviously adds to the count of the guilds that we've got in play as well. And because it's lifelink, we are going to deal lifelink damage with it, with its ability, as well as the attacks. So let's see what we can do here. We've got 4, 5, 6, 7 mana available after this. We'll hold back blockers. It's a shame we can't quite get rid of the cat player here, but we might as well take the card draw while we can get it. So get our opponent down to 5 and 20 commander. We've got 1, 2, double check, unlike when I first got this ability. It's a lightning bolt, so we'll get rid of this thing before it's got any copies made of it or anything like that. And then choose ourselves for the card draw ability. So we'll gain some life from Niv Mizzet. We'll gain some life from hitting with this as well, thanks to the lifelink. So we go up to 18, which is much more comfortable. And there is a General Ferrous Rockrick. I was going to play the Beledros here, but if we play that instead, we can hold up the D-Spark or the Growth Spiral and get tokens into play anyway. More relevant tokens, arguably. Although, is there anything to stop us going Beledros and untapping the lands? Puts us at 8, but it would be fun to do that. Not necessarily the right thing to do. We haven't played a land this turn either, apparently, so Exotic Orchard. Play the Exotic Orchard. So that means we can go for Rockrick and then hold up both the Growth Spiral and the D-Spark. So probably best holding on to this for after a board wipe. Maybe we have to go Merciless Eviction. And now, as long as we keep the Mana Crypt in play, we can afford both Merciless Eviction and a Beledros afterwards. So yeah, we'll go for this. And this obviously maximises the amount of life that we have as well, not putting 10 into the Beledros. Put a plus counter on it with the Rhythm of the Wild. I would be tempted to play the Pippin here, but I'm hoping that we'll keep the Rhystic Study or the Rhythm of the Wild in play. So it'll come in with haste and we'll be able to give protection from a creature and swing straight through anyway. So I thought we were done for there, but I'm hoping that we're going to be able to squeeze the game out a little bit longer. Next turn, if we're swinging in with our commander, I'll probably get down both of these and even put life into the Beledros in the hope that we'll gain life back, and it maximises the amount of cards we draw that way. Yeah, Unflinching Courage was a hell of a draw for us. I think we've got the other version of this in here as well. So now Arahbo, going to give a buff. There's no trample or anything, so not quite as worried about this. So depending on where they attack, I think I'll make a Golem token or whatever these make. Yeah, Golem token. And alright, that's going in at the Dimir player, that's really good. What I would have done there was gone for the despark onto this maybe, made a golem token and chumped because I want to keep as many guilds in play as possible. 2 cards in the cat player's hand, and deciding to pay into the Arahbo again, so this is just going to get chumped, you would think. In fact, they have to block it because it's a 22-22. Now the Dimir player has some interaction. Otawara going to bounce that. Been no shortage of interaction from the Dimir player. And now has Heroic Intervention for hexproof. So I think they're going to block with this. We can't do anything about that. So we'll just have to leave these 2 to it. Alright, and now if this had trample, it does have trample. What gives it trample? Does this ability? Ah, this ability gives trample, alright. So if we remove this, which we want to do anyway, shouldn't it just trample through a non-existent blocker and get rid of this player? I think that's going to work, so... Oh, it has hexproof from multicolour, of course. Forgot about my own ability there, so scratch that. It's going to deal a lot of trample damage, but yeah, what I was hoping to do was remove the blocker there, and because it has trample, all that damage should have gone through, but yeah, we can't remove it, unfortunately. Should make this player think twice about swinging in, though. So they go down to 4, and we're not looking terrible here. Got their only flyer out of the way as well. So a rat token being made for this player we want to swing through in the air anyway. Unfortunately, we can't get rid of Mirko either, so they can actually bring back the Agent of Treachery, can't they? And that would probably steal away our commander. Alright, so mission briefing first of all, a Surveil 2. Yeah, that hexproof from multicoloured was relevant there. Wasn't sure how often that was going to be relevant, but yeah, your Assassin's Trophies and D-Sparks and the like, it's going to be relevant against, obviously. Pretty sure we could have had our opponent out of the game there. Might be even with the Agent of Treachery, we're able to go wide on him anyway, if we manage to make some 4/4s. There is a Fairy Dream Thief in the bin, which is noteworthy. Not sure if that's been surveilled at some point. They put a Rhystic Study into the bin as well, able to recast this with the mission briefing, so surveil again. And there's a land and a Solemn Simulacrum, so going after something specific seemingly. Another plus counter. Obviously ups the number of creatures that they can reanimate with this. There's a Cabal Coffers in play now as well. Not too many swamps though, just 4. Which will gain them an additional mana. They threw away the Urborg previously, don't forget. So they're down to 2 life thanks to the Notion Rain. They need to get themselves back in it here, or at least keep themselves from dying. So let's go through to the beginning of combat, and then I'll see if I can get anything with this Growth Spiral. I don't think there is anything I can grab. So Rockrick going to trigger. This would have been the argument for Pippin being in play already. Could have given protection for our commander. Probably more important than Growth Spiral. But it's been a fun game nonetheless. I thought we were going to be knocked out within the next couple of turns, and we've managed to stay in it, so I'm happy with the outcome either way here. Alright, draws us into Jensen, which will make us some angels every time we cast our commander. Not sure if it's worthwhile being in the deck. I think we are going to be recasting our commander quite a lot. But otherwise it's just a scry. And obviously it adds to the guild count as well for Niv Mizzet. So you are allowed to swing in with Mirko. And that goes in at the cat player. So this will take him out, a 5/7. So down goes Arahbo. And see if the Dimir player can pull it back here. 3 cards in hand, we just did it, so he may well be able to. Just going through to the end step. Holding up more interaction, no doubt. And does go after the Agent of Treachery, as you would assume. So that comes in with a finality counter on it, so if we get to blow it up again, then it is going to go down for good, so no need to point a D-Spark at it necessarily. And does steal our commander, as you would expect. Let's just get a blocker out of the way. Go after the Agent of Treachery. This will make us a creature as well, so well worth doing, I think. Obviously this keeps it from being reanimated, gets a blocker out of the way and makes that token like I just said, so pulling multiple duties here. May well get removal or a counter magic out of our opponent's hand as well. Worst case scenario, we just have to go for the Merciless Eviction next turn. A Sinister Sabotage is surveil and counter a spell, that's fine. They're not going to be able to counter most of what's in our hand anyway. And if they're countering that, they're not countering a Merciless Eviction if we need to cast that. And they've just surveilled a Myriad Landscape into the bin, that's a good one to get rid of. So we managed to get ourselves back up to 18 thanks to that incredible draw previously. Let's see if we would have lost the flip, so we would have been down to 1, assuming our opponents couldn't have dealt another damage to us. We might have been in it still. Okay, Feyburrow Elder. How many different colours do we have? We'll have green, white, blue and red, so everything apart from black, so this will pay for itself if it comes in with haste. So let's go for Jensen Carthalion first, then we can get some scries going just in case that's of any relevance. General Rockrick making more tokens, which will not have haste. Rhythm of the Wild only cares about non-tokens entering, and we'll just give everything haste at this point in an attempt to go wide. So make another token, the Jensen going to give us a scry. And there's Armadillo Cloak, we know how important that was previously. Do we need it here? I don't think we do. So I'll put it on the bottom. And that can come in with haste as well, so yeah, basically we want to have Pippin as well so that we can... Yeah, let's go for the Beledros. We'll put the life into Beledros, I think, because we want to get Pippin into play as well so that we can give something protection from creatures. I'm just really trying to work around anything that our opponent could have. And we are going to be able to make Wooburg Manor at this point with the Feyburrow Elder thanks to a black permanent entering. That is a Bring to Light on top. So we can search for a creature instant or sorcery and cast it without paying its mana cost. I think that's probably worth keeping on top at this point. We could go for something like Niv Mizzet Perun or something like that. That can have haste as well. Then we'll put the 10 life into Beledros. Untaps all of our lands. And then it is Pippin, Guard of the Citadel. And yeah, our opponent decided to scoop it there. I wasn't too sure that our opponent didn't have anything there. I mean, could have had 4 mana available, so there's Aetherize, which is 4 mana I think, and I think it's only 1 blue. So I was thinking maybe I could just swing in with a few creatures, maybe don't absolutely tap out, leave some creatures in play to work around an Aetherize, and maybe give a Golem protection from creatures to get through with that. And worst case scenario, we can go for the Merciless Eviction, like I said. So yeah, it turned out to be a pretty convincing one in the end, but I think it was all thanks to drawing into this. That really kept us in it as it happens. Anyway, if you enjoyed it, then be sure to leave it a thumbs up and consider donating on Patreon via the link in the description below. Big thank you to the very few of you who do that already. Appreciate you being here. Hopefully see you in the next one. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.